Step 3, you grow hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. We are back and better than ever. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. Last week, we dropped configuration mistakes that can ruin your day, prevent outages, and redeployments in Azure SQL Managed Instance by Mr. Daniel Taylor. Then on Tuesday, we had our Azure Data Community Roundtable, and on Wednesday, we released how to provision a Microsoft Fabric capacity in Azure and attach it to your Power BI workspace. And then on Monday, Daniel Taylor was back again, even though he's on vacation, with Don't Skip These Post Configuration Steps, a guide for developers and DBAs in Azure SQL. So much to see, so much to do. You don't want to miss a thing. If this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like and give us a subscribe. We drop content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. On Monday and Wednesday, we have our MS Tech Bits, and today is Tuesday. So it is the Azure Data Community Roundtable. This is your time, and we are so glad that you are spending it with us. If you want to interact with the show, it is so easy to do. First off, we love your comments, we love your questions, and we love for you to be a part of the show. All you have to do is make a comment on the YouTube stream, and one of my amazing co-hosts will see that. They will add it to the stream, and you will be a part of the show. Speaking of those amazing co-hosts, I am joined by Mr. Andreas Padilla. Daniel Taylor, as we said, is out on vacation. I also have the man in the hat himself, Mr. Josh Luedeman, and he is the model of a modern Major General, the venerated New Jerseyan, the one, the only, Neeraj Jhaveri. I clearly had to practice that a few times before we went live just to make sure that tongue twister didn't work. Quick call to action. We are here as part of the Azure Data community. So what do we want you to do? We want to make sure that you go over to the Microsoft site for the Azure Data community, find a user group, add your user group if you got one and you're not already attached to it, and join this process. If you're looking for a user group, you can find thousands of them all over the world, and it's a part of the community. You know, they answer the questions that you have bubbling, build that local community where you can see people in person, maybe even find opportunities for you, for your career, and for your next job. And when you look at things that you're building for your career, don't stop there. Next, we want you to head over to SQLSaturday.com. Take a look at the events that are occurring. You can see we've got Oregon and Washington coming up as part of the March to the Past Summit. This is going to be free training with MVPs, some of the top consultants that there are in the business right now, Microsoft employees, so many wonderful things to see. And once you finish there, well, where should you go next? You should head over to datasaturday.com. Check out some of the great online events from around the world that are already set up and ready to go. And of course, there's one more thing we'd like you to do. If you are learning about Microsoft Fabric, head over and join our Microsoft Fabric Learning channel. We run it. The PG runs it. People ask questions. There's opportunities. As you can see right there, we have a wonderful opportunity to present for the Fabric and Synapse Explorers user group in Norway. Year-round call to speakers is open. So if you're a speaker looking for content or a place to be able to speak, here's a wonderful place for you to be able to submit. And again, you're going to find questions, answers, blogs, the latest videos, all kinds of wonderful things updated in that channel. You want to make sure not to miss a thing. Oh, and there's our good buddy, Daniel Taylor. Hello from the Tennessee mountains. The color is beautiful here. Dan, thank you so much for the Away from the Fields. Andreas, I was meeting with a customer yesterday, and one of the things they asked me, they said, "Are you the person who's up in the beautiful North Carolina mountains right now?" And I said, "No, that's Dan Taylor. We're all envious of him. He's got these beautiful views." And they said they were just loving the Away from the Field shorts of Dan broadcasting in the morning. I said, "Oh, I love it too." As a matter of fact, I showed it to Sue, and we agreed maybe that needs to be a vacation stop list for us next year. I haven't been there in years. How about you? How was your weekend, and what are you thinking about Dan Schwartz?
I love Dan Schwartz. He is the Tennessee Mountain Man right now. I, unlike him, am not sporting the Tennessee Mountain Man look. I am sporting my blue steel look, and that is because my wife made us go do our Christmas pictures this past Saturday. So I had to.
There we go. I love a little blue steel early in the morning. That's awesome. Speaking of things that are awesome, there's a reason we're here, right? We are here for the Azure Data Community Roundtable. And of course, when I think of awesome, well, I can't help but think of this next person and the link that they put in, we're going to get straight to it, folks. And it was pure awesome. Of course, I'm talking about the one, the only Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. What are warehouses in Microsoft Fabric? Neeraj, take it away. What do we got here?
Thanks, Brad. What is warehouse in Microsoft Fabric? I was prepping up for the pre-con that we are having for Live 360, and that's where I was reading this article. What are warehouse in Microsoft Fabric? I mean, very nicely written by Cohen. It shows you what exactly is warehouse in Microsoft Fabric, how underlying data is saved under a Parquet format into your Delta Lake format. He goes over the architecture part of it, and then he shows you how to create a pipeline. I mean, how to ingest the data into the warehouse. Even shows you different components on the SQL side of it, like doing a visualization, doing the cloning part of it, how to map it up. Very nicely done things. Even it shows you how to connect to a destination SQL server and publish your pipeline. So very, very nicely done article. And then also one other last, if you go at the bottom, he also shows you at how to do the Power BI part of it, connecting to your data warehouse. So something nicely done.
I was going to say, Cohen Verbeek is one of those guys that is just unbelievably smart, unbelievably talented, and he's an incredibly fast runner. As a matter of fact, whenever I see his times in our running group that we have, I immediately go, I am old. I am very old, and I will never run that fast again in my life. The man does like a kilometer in 5 minutes, and I've seen him do it in under 5 before. And I'm like, are you Wolverine? I don't think he is Wolverine, but he does make wonderful blogs.
To be fair, though, you would do a kilometer much quicker than I would. You say, what is it? 5 minutes. I would say I'll see you in 5 days. That's just me.
Well, that's not true. You walked the Disney 5K with me, and we did that in enough time to be able to go get breakfast in the morning.
And I get yelled at regularly when I go shopping with my wife because I walk and leave her like in my dust. So walking, yeah. But you start throwing in jogging, I'll see you in a week.
I was going to say, you got some skills, buddy. Don't sit there and deny it. And something that we also don't want to deny is this wonderful article that is my article next, announcing dynamic masking for Fabric Warehouse and Lakehouse SQL endpoint. This is by our good friend Sten Weinuts. Sten is just a fantastic human being. We hope to see Sten over at SQL Bits. Our fingers are crossed. Our sessions are submitted. We saw that they got a lot of submissions, so we like a lot of people. But I'm sure that if you, dear viewer, go over to SQL Bits, you are going to see Sten. Sten is a former colleague of ours from Azure Fast Track, who is now part of the Microsoft Fabric product group. And what Sten is doing is he's taking us through the announcement on this blog specifically for dynamic data masking. Keep in mind that there is fine-grained control specifically because you may not want the people interacting with your data to be able to see this sensitive data, but they may still need to perform functions. And one of the examples he gives us is the fact that you can turn on this dynamic data masking, and then in a pipeline preview, if you have a pipeline developer, that data is still masked. It's an absolutely fantastic feature. I'm really excited about it. As a matter of fact, not to foreshadow too much, but you're probably going to see a video about this pretty soon on our channel. Yeah, and a lot of nods. That's good. Yes, we have a channel.
That's a nice article. I mean, I was going through your link. It's a really nice article.
Sorry, you know me during the show. I'm like multitasking, banners, sliding sounds, and all that stuff, watching chats. So yeah, you're like, yeah, we have a channel. Good nods, and I'm like, oh yeah, yep, nod. Sorry.
Yeah, there we go. Well, there's, of course, there's someone who always never misses. And next up, I've got this individual. They never miss. And this article, when I saw it, it was definitely a go-to never miss article. And I'm talking about Mr. Andres Padilla with all you need to know about writing custom UDFs using Python and Apache Spark 3.0. Andres, break it down for me.
Break it down. Is that like an 80s rap song? I like
it really is. I don't know what's happening this morning. My mind is stuck back in the 80s. My wife told me we might have to go see New Kids on the Block with Paula Abdul. So forgive me. Every single thing I say may end up being like some type of 80s reference.
Well, to break it down, Deepu gives us a great article on Pandas user-defined functions or Python user-defined functions. Let me give you a little bit of back talk here. I'm dealing with a customer right now. They got 40 billion rows that they got a massage, and they're having issues because they're getting memory leaks that are going into the file store, and they're using a pandas data frame, and it's like really grinding to a halt. So we've been trying to like chip away at what could it be? Could it be to the query? Could it be the pandas data frame? Should they be using a user-defined Python data frame? I love this article because Deepu breaks it down why you should be using where a Python user, what a Python user-defined function is in Azure in Apache Spark, when you should use them, and then he goes into Pandas user-defined functions, and he starts talking to us about why Pandas user-defined functions are great because they're very the ease of use. There's a lot of functionality built into that library. You can do custom transformations. The debugging and testing is great with Pandas user-defined functions. One thing you want you to know, if you go with the Python user-defined function, you're going to inherit some serialization and deserialization issues with out-of-the-box Python user-defined functions. So it might make you lean into the pandas. With pandas, you get vectorized operations and a bunch of other goodies. Point of the story here is keep your eye out. You have a big data set. You might want the ease of use of pandas. You might want to go with what's out of the box. Out of the box might be you might get out of the box for a small data set, but for ease of use, great flexibility. Try that pandas library.
I was going to say, I absolutely love the part of the article where it said 100x performance time on the pandas user-defined function. I mean, that's the selling point right there to me. Yeah. And when I think of the selling point, it's always got to be the thing that delivers. And when I think of somebody who always delivers, of course, I'm thinking about the one, the only, Mr. Josh Luedeman, up next with Zero Trust Architectures for Azure Managed Instance Databases. Josh, what do we got here?
So I actually kind of fell into this article and found it through my travels. And the reason I liked it is because there's...
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Through your travels on the interwebs, you're meandering.
Yes,
you had it
through my travels on the interwebs, sir. Yes.
You had the walking stick app and the
oh God, no, not the walking stick. No. Travels through my email. Trust me, it feels like a safari or 3-day hike just to go through a morning's worth of emails. But yes, I came across this article, and this is a topic becoming, coming more and more to the front. I think for all of us, all of our customers and their different environments, is looking at and trying to understand A, what zero trust is, and B, what is needed to have your environment fully embrace that zero trust model. And so the nice thing here is, and I'm gonna shorten your first name to Shiv, just because I'm worried about mispronouncing the rest. So Shiv here goes through a great article, and goes through each of the pieces of the basics of the zero trust model, talking about the architecture, network isolation, access controls, data protections, even down to looking at encryption at rest, obviously, but using customer managed keys is a recommended approach. All the compliance pieces, but it's a good one for, I think, all of our viewers to at least look at. It's not going to solve all of your problems and tell you exactly how to embrace, a zero trust model in your environment, especially around your databases, but it definitely gives you a good primer to understand where, at least in a general direction, where you need to go and get you started on understanding the key terms and principles. So great article there.
Wonderful stuff. And to stay with our security theme, which I think is absolutely fantastic, let me go to another Mr. Fantastic himself, Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, with Microsoft Fabric row-level security, column-level security, and warehouse and SQL endpoint. Neeraj, take it away.
So, SQL Server was introduced. Fabric introduced the security on the.
Is that Neeraj or is that me?
No,
That
that's
is Neeraj.
Neeraj. I'm afraid,
All right.
New York is having internet issues.
I just got. Can you guys hear me now? I just got crashed.
Yep,
That
gotcha.
Yeah.
Threw me out. Okay. All right. So Microsoft Fabric just introduced row-level and column-level security in public preview. Particular on the SQL endpoints, also on the Lakehouse side of it. In this article, Maheshwaran goes over how to define that up. I mean, you can also create an AD group. So he's first showing you how to create a group that can have a security type group. And then you can add people to it, but then on your workspace level, you can go and add people into that particular thing so that they can see the workspace that you're working in, and then you can go and select the rules on the SQL level. It shows you in details how to create that scripts. I mean, here's some examples here how to do it up, and then people who are in that security group or an individual who has given the rights can only see the row or a column in that scenario. So he has shown both ways how to do it. Very nicely done with screenshots and some samples in there that you can use it up to set it up. So nicely done article and can help you out.
Excellent. Very nice. And I was going to say, we also have a video on row level security if the folks are looking for that.
That is correct.
It is some good stuff. Yeah. So speaking of, I saw this Jose Manuel Jurado Diaz, and he had lessons learned 450 automating alerting notifications for query store data in the usages in Azure SQL database. And I thought this was absolutely fantastic because one of the things that we're always looking for is how do we put alerts on and how do we put proactive alerts, especially in place when we're looking at Azure. And one of the things this shows is how to be able to use the query data store and how to be able to send an email alert if the storage space exceeds 80% of its maximum. So that way we can make sure we've always got that flight recorder sitting there with enough space to continue to look at the data that we have in the queries that were coming through. He has a PowerShell script, and then he talks about how we have to adapt our environment. He then gives us the script so that way we can access it. And he also has a link to other lessons learned that are very similar, monitoring query data store cache states, buffer IO in Azure SQL database, and can I log when the query data store fails to capture a query? A really, really wonderful series that he's got going on over there, and it made me want to read more. So I thought this was a really nice thing to introduce to people, especially for those looking at how we continue to have alerts and how they continue to function for support of our query store in Azure SQL. Speaking of something that I really enjoyed, of course, I really enjoyed this. Coming up once again, it's Mr. Andres Padilla with how to find pandas data frame size, shape, and dimensional properties. I've had to do this myself lately in some of my notebooks that I'm running in Fabric. And so it was interesting because I had to find the size recently, but the shape and dimensional properties I hadn't hopped into yet. So I was glad you had this. Walk us through this, buddy.
Thank you, Stephen Rodwig, and thank you for that intro, Brad. Yeah, this is something that I want you guys out there to pull out of your pocket, write that down, on a piece of napkin or a bubblegum wrapper. Why you want to get the data frame size, shape, and dimensions. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that it's going to help you first and foremost with memory management. Data frames need to fit into memory in Azure Databricks, and if you understand the size of the data frame, it helps you understand and assess the right memory requirements so that the memory just doesn't get filled and it starts to spill over into file. Okay, so that's going to help you. The other thing it's going to help you understand is, are there a lot of data? Is there a lot of data shuffling going on? Is there a lot of data serialization going on? It can also help you understand how can I start to optimize my transformations? That's why if you can start, and these are just really easy tricks that you can pull out. You can pull out the size of your data frame, the shape, how many columns, the dimensions, and they'll give you those queries that they have in this article that Stephen wrote out. And if you pull those out, you start to visualize, okay, how big is this? How much memory do I need? What's going on? Great little article.
Absolutely. And these are really nice commands that you can do just by adding a dot, size, shape to be able to look at on the back of the pandas frame data frame. Very good stuff. So, speaking of good stuff, of course, next up, I always love it when we've got a series and when we've got stuff that we can learn. And this guy always brings the good stuff. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Josh Luedeman with Generative AI for Beginners, a 12-lesson course.
Yeah. So on my long journey with my hiking stick through my email, I came across this link from the Microsoft's Educator Developer blog. And sometimes there's some good nuggets in there. Like I keep an eye on this blog for, innovative ways to use OneNote and stuff like that. They've done a lot of stuff over the last few years. But this one, when it popped up, caught my eye. What it is it's a great, again, 12-lesson course on getting up and running on generative AI for beginners, right? So the nice thing is each of the lessons, when it goes in, it gives you obviously the premise and basic stuff around generative AI and LLMs, and exploring and comparing them and all. But then when you get to lesson, even 5, it starts walking you through, actually creating some different things, like creating advanced prompts, and then literally 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, all about building your own things, your own tools with using different generative AI and LLMs, whether it be a chat app, search apps, image generations, text generation applications. So for me, I'm looking at this going, there's some applications I can do even using these lessons to help me in my own workday, build my own little co-pilots if what I feel is out there isn't enough for what I need. So a lot of different cool options here. And I was like, oh, this would be awesome to share. I think there's some people who get a lot of use out of this.
Very nice. Well, and I love it. There's a little link to a GitHub repository right there that helps people get through the learning.
And you caught the good part too. So one of the things I did find and was called out in the comments, the Discord link in the blog post is broken. But if you go into the GitHub repository, which has a lot of the same text, the link to the Discord, so that you can be in an environment with a bunch of other learners and members of the Microsoft AI community are all in that Discord server. The link in the GitHub repo to Discord does work.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Good
right.
stuff. So if you're using this to learn, yeah, make sure you check out that community and you use the right link, the one that's down in the comments then, for the Discord server. Well, there's no Discord when it comes to this, Dan. He's all Harmony. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. He's up next with Microsoft Fabric Unified Data Analytics Platform Part 2. It's a quick 9-minute read. What do we got here, Neeraj?
So, Josh, thanks for the link. I mean, generative AI is something that I was looking at to learn, so that would be definitely useful for me this week. Anyway, this is a 2-part series by Sachin, or called the Geek Gypsy. The reason I said it's a second part, there's also first part of Fabric on it, but this is particular one I brought it up is because he's giving you use cases, right? I mean, if you go at the bottom of it where he's saying use case for retail companies, use case for use case for a finance company, is giving you a use case and a solution on top of it, how you can use Fabric for that particular company. So something that people can understand and make it very easy for that particular segment of the companies to understand up there. He also goes in details where if you comparison between different features between each and every different competitors out there, I would say, shows you what is there, what is not available. So definitely that is something that people can definitely look at it. And then he goes in the bottom of it where he goes in delta lakes, structures of it, what is supported and what is not supported, how to bring the data into the data lake, ingestions, governance, integration. That's all he's talking in very detail about it. He also goes in details about the pricing calculator, which everybody's asking right now. What is the cost going to be? I mean, right now Fabric is free. You can use it for 60 days free trial. But in future, yeah, if you want to look at it, what the costing is going to be, that is something that is defined here, really nicely done. So that's the reason I brought only part 2. I mean, you can always read the part 1 first and go to the part 2 part of it.
Very nice, though. I love that level of detail. That was some really, really great stuff. Speaking of. There was a wonderful blog that I saw by Mr. Erwin de Klerk who's one of our great MVPs and does a lot of summary work on Microsoft Fabric. This was around Azure OpenAI and Microsoft Fabric. And one of the things it was doing was it was specifically talking about how we can utilize these two things together, what the requirements are. And then I really enjoyed this because everybody has a different point of view when they do it. This is an exercise that I've gone through myself, but I loved the different solution that was in here that Erwin set up. He used a Spark data frame, but he used one of the news groups that was specifically already in here to be able to fill that data set. So he didn't need to go out and download or utilize anything, just invoke the sample data set that's a part of Spark, set up specific parameters to be able to send through the OpenAI service. And then what he did was he also set up a prompt specifically saying, hey, you're going to read the text of the email and the address, and then you're going to also look at this, provide a 1-sentence summary, and show me the sentiment of the email. And then he said, this is the format I want you to come back with this in. And what I really liked was he ran through this, he parsed it, he pulled it out, and then he showed it to us in a data frame, so that way he could write it back to a data set if he wanted to, but he's enhanced the data set with sentiment analysis using OpenAI models for this, which I thought was a really neat use case. We've done, Josh, you and I know have done a lot of stuff with sentiment analysis in the past, and we were even having a text conversation about that in the morning, but I hadn't necessarily considered using a GTP model specifically for that type of situation. I found that to be absolutely fascinating.
No. And just to let everybody in, because personally, I felt our text conversation earlier about this was comical, is Brad and I, how many years ago was that now? Maybe 4 years?
Oh, it was
started 5 years ago?
It was the original Spider-Man with Tom Holland. When it came out, I started looking at sentiment analysis, and we were originally using Logic apps. And then I created a Python app, and it took me, and it was a comedy of errors because literally while I was on the road traveling for Premiere, you were also at Premiere, I would text Josh and I would be like, I figured it out. And then there'd be some mix of curses followed by, I didn't figure it out. And that basically went on for, at least multiple times a week, every week for like 3 months until I finally figured it out. And then we would go around and we do presentations. Now,
now what I was going to say was we put, especially you with all the Python script work, we put all that work into building this awesome demo and putting together a great session on it. And it took forever to pull together. And then I was working on some stuff, doing some personal automation, looking at Power Automate earlier. And literally in one of the templates was pull tweets to get sentiment analysis. I'm like, send it to Brad. I'm like, where the hell were you like 6 years ago?
I know, like everything we did. Now, I'll be honest, there's a lot of things I would want to dig into that because like what we had constructed specifically was a crawler to be able to get around API limitations and extract a lot of things that we could then do social media based off tweets. I have no idea what the limitations.
The level to 0, the limiter to 0. So we're kind of out of business on ours anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, that wouldn't work anyway. So it was nice, but definitely not something that's super functional. But let's talk about something that's always functional. And what's always functional is my good friend Andreas Padilla telling us about the best 5 Azure monitoring workbook examples. Andreas, what do we got here?
Exactly what you just said. The best by Sajjad Hussain. Thank you for this. This simple softball home run that you can hit. He walks you through how you can create a Azure Monitor workbook for your storage account, which I really love that one. That one was like my favorite one because you can analyze who's coming in, the activity, you can monitor capacity usage, track file access patterns with that workbook. Really great one. And then he's got some quick setups for Azure Function Performance and your virtual network, visualizing Azure network traffic, which is a must that you probably want in your subscription. Go through this. I've been chipping away at that. I got 1 or 2 set up. You should have this done in like 20 minutes.
That was nice stuff. I love it. And of course, speaking of things that I love, last but certainly not least, number 1 in our hearts and our minds, it's Mr. Josh Luedeman with Adopt a Product Mindset to Maximize Value from Microsoft Fabric.
Yeah, so Brad, I know you love the series articles, and this one I usually wait till later in a series of articles to feature it. So you know, not everybody likes to watch every episode as they come out, like I do when with the streaming shows. Some people like to wait till it's all out, then read it from cover to cover. This is a great series around Fabric from Engine, and they go into and kind of start it. What is Fabric? Fabric as it relates to data mesh as an architecture. Data mesh is as it looks like it's a vision for how Fabric came together, and then all the way down to this article, which I thought was really smart, way of writing it, and I'd love to see more customers looking at their data and analytical pieces of their environments as a product, right? And so this article walks customers through actually taking a look at Fabric and trying to use a product mindset when looking at how to integrate Fabric into their own environment. And the reason why the data mesh conversation and the articles further up kind of walk you into that is that's really a tenet of data mesh, is looking at not just a huge data warehouse, but your whole analytical environment as different pieces of your company's overall analytics strategy. And it starts walking you through again, how to look at, how to really look at it from a product driven approach, different things you need to look at, including actionable insights, user empathy, because if you don't have empathy for your users, they're not going to use it because you're not making it in a way that's useful to them. Things like that. And obviously things like fail fast. If you start going down a road, it's not working. Don't try and bang your head on a wall to force the square peg in a round hole. Back out quickly, change directions. But it really walks through all the different things to have the conversations a lot of us aren't that great about, because we're all great technical people who all love the gadgets and the technology. But this actually kind of helps us wrap our heads around the other side so that we can actually get the people in our organizations who pay the bills to actually pay the bills.
No, absolutely
Great article,
agree.
yeah. Great.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And that's a wonderful soft skills type of article to also understand that it's not just about, is everything 100% feature complete? There's a large part of it. And it's something we've had to adopt, right? Fail fast. Often when we have our meetings, we talk about something that we're going to try as an initiative. And when we do, we go, here's the time box period of time. And we're going to look at this because everything we do takes time. And there's only so much time that you have. You'd love to be able to tackle everything, but you just can't. Humans don't scale like that, especially if you don't want them to have a mental breakdown. Well, speaking of mental breakdowns, I think it's time for us to get to the wrap up. Josh, we're fast approaching. As a matter of fact, it is next week. Tell the good people out there, give it to me quickly. Where are we going to be?
We are going to be at Live 360, the best conference of the conference season, on the wonderful, beautiful, exquisite grounds of Universal Studios Orlando, nestled in the picturesque Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort and Conference Center.
Fantastic stuff. Josh is absolutely right. Oh, yeah.
With the maple bacon donut on top. Never mind.
That's right. From Voodoo Donuts. So we are at the resort area of Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort of Universal Studios, Adventure Islands, that whole resort area. As a matter of fact, you can hear the Dr. Doom ride and the Hulk roar from where we are in the conference center. If you're staying at the Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort, which is, I think, the attendees hotel, your key, as a matter of fact, is a 2-card fast pass. So after you do a full day of learning, hop over to the park, enjoy yourself, come on down with your family. There's a dessert luau on Wednesday. We're going to be there for the speaker dine around on Monday. There's a Birds of a Feather luncheon on Wednesday that we'll be a part of as well. This is your chance. Meet with us. We're all going to have a table one-on-one. And then we've got our big pre-con, a day of modern analytics and introduction to Microsoft Fabric with myself, Josh Luedeman, Neeraj Jhaveri, Buck Woody, Daniel Taylor's going to be there. And then also our good friend Bradley Schapp from the Fabric Cat team is coming down, and he's going to join us and help us out on Monday as well. You are not going to want to miss a thing. If you're looking for it, there's the link right there, aka.ms/live360. That will take you straight to our pre-con page. There's still time to sign up, where we've got a good number of attendees, but we've got a little bit more room, so I can let one or two of you in, but you got to act fast. So I can't wait for it. This is so exciting. It's our favorite place to be. I think that's everything I've got. I was going to say after this, we don't have any announcements until we find out about Sequel Bits. That'll be in the January timeframe. A quick reminder, next week we will not be live with the roundtable. It's going to be recorded because a lot of us are going to be presenting at Live 360. And then the week of Thanksgiving, we are off for that week. We will be updating our Away from the Field shorts. I think you're going to see plenty of tasty treats and meal prep from many of us.
I'm off that week. I'm off that week. We are going to have some videos of some turkeys, possibly a roast beast. Who knows? There's going to be all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. And then we might even have a Friendsgiving on Friday. That could be some fun. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
There we go. All right. Well, for Andreas Padilla, Josh Luedeman, Neeraj Jhaveri, and Mr. Daniel Taylor, thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. Be good to one another.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Today's gonna be a good day.